I work on environmental and demographics economics with a special focus on small island developing states. More precisely, I try to understand how migration can be used as an adaptation strategy by these countries.
I'm interested in understanding the interactions between development and climate change related vulnerability and impacts in the larger urban development framework.
My research interest focuses on the link between climate change and inequalities in agriculture. So the main goal of my PhD thesis is to identify climate change effects and climate change policy effects on the distribution of income among farmers.
I work on equity concerns related to sustainable development issues, mainly on resource management, but also on climate change soon.
My research focus is to evaluate the climate impacts, and right now I'm using the CG model to introduce the climate damage into the model to evaluate the climate impact to the economic sectors at a global scale. Yeah.
I work on the interaction between climate change and inequality at the global level. More specifically, my focus is on how inter- and intragenerational inequalities may be affected by climate policies in the 21st century.
Hello, I'm Giovanna, and I'm working on the nexus of water resources and climate policies.
My research assesses socioeconomic impacts of the investment in renewable energy generation in Brazil, namely wind and solar power. I'm doing CG modeling to assess those because the greatest potential for solar and wind power generation in Brazil is concentrated in its poorest region. So I'm doing some interregional CG modeling to assess that.
So I'm developing a residential model for Brazil that considers its heterogeneity, social and regional heterogeneity, and this model will be linked with the integrated assessment model for Brazil.
I investigate the interactions between climate change, global inequality and sustainable development. So a lot of the negative impacts of climate change are going to fall onto poorer people in developing countries, but at the same time the consequences of mitigation policies like rising energy prices or rising food prices are also going to affect poorer people more. So with my research I'm trying to understand how we can resolve this dilemma.
I'm interested in assessing the impact of carbon pricing policies both on CO2 emissions and also assessing whether they had an impact on air pollutants and managed to improve air quality locally.
I studied the impacts of environmental tax reforms on the economy, emissions and households' lifestyles.
So I'm interested in studying the distributive impact of border carbon adjustment tax in Europe and especially for France.
I'm interested in assessing the inequalities due to environmental policy like carbon tax or energy efficiency regulation in France.
Je m'appelle Ondine Berland, je suis étudiante à l'ENS Paris-Saclay et je travaille sur l'impact hétérogène de la taxe carbone sur les mobilités géographiques des ménages.